Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Andy Holton. I'm a systems engineer with Polarian Software. The topic of today's webinar, Achieving and Improving DO 178C Compliance with Polarian. Today's agenda, first we're going to touch on a few of the common pains in DO 178C compliance. We'll talk about establishing traceability from design through your source code, enforcing and automating the documenting process. We're going through reusing and organizing deliverables before talking about a little bit about Polarian ALM and our DO 178C template and how we can use this to help you with the above items. Go into a Polarian demonstration where I'll actually demonstrate how we've successfully used Polarian in the past to help our customers achieve, in this case, DO 178B compliance. And finally, we'll have some time at the end for any question or answers. Again, please ask any questions that you may have as they come up. So going forward, in our dealings with some of our aerospace customers in the past, we found there's a few very common pains with achieving the DO compliance. Firstly, how can I quickly provide and assure full requirements coverage? How can I provide accurate software verification results? How do I know that when my product is complete and I do have to go to the FAA for certification that all of my requirements have been covered by a test case and that a test case is assigned to them and that test case has passed and I've run those tests? In addition, how do I take my plan, the processes I have in place, not only document them within our software development plan, but how do I prove the enforcement of that process? How do I prove that at every step of the way, our team and our group has actually stuck to that process and not sort of gone outside the boundaries? In addition, how can I prove that independence between development and verification and between the different levels of requirements has been met and that one or more people are not touching multiple parts of the process that are supposed to be independent? And lastly, how can I streamline and automate the production of my deliverables? And how can I do that same thing with the audit process? The audit and the certification process is very, very difficult and time-consuming, and anything that can be done to make that process easier is always welcome. First of all, talk a little about reusing and organizing deliverables. One of the benefits of using a tool such as Polarian to help with DO 178 compliance is just being able to take templates that can reduce the amount of work that you need to do over and over again. Again, this is something that can easily be done in many other tools, such as Microsoft Word. Having a tool with Polarian that keeps it in one place and allows you to update that deliverable over a large number of groups easily and distribute them can be very, very helpful. In addition, creating those deliverables, taking the templates and actually populating them with data can be done on an automated basis as well. Taking your project artifacts, such as your requirements or your test cases, and automatically inserting them into your documents. Being able to have a self-documenting process, having something set up within the system that enforces your process can keep, again, work to a minimum and allow you to automate the construction of these documents. And lastly, being able to take these documents and store them not only in a centralized location, but actually attached to that project that they are relating to. Within Polarian, not only are the documents stored within the project, but the actual project artifacts, your requirements and test cases, all stored in one place and related to one another so that people, no matter where they are in the world or what teams they are, can access the same information at the same time, again, on a very project-oriented basis. Going on with that, beyond just the creation of the documents, is actually establishing the trace data between our artifacts, making sure that all the way from high-level requirements down to your lower-level requirements and design specifications, down to test cases, defects, and even down to your actual source and executable code. These relations have been created and that there are strict rules governing what needs to be there. Having these relationships allow you to monitor and enforce the existence of the test cases. Again, something that can be done manually using a document management system or a document editor like Microsoft Word, but much easier and much more automated with the tools such as Polarian. Being able to monitor and enforce the existence of these test cases and ensure that you have full verification coverage throughout your entire project. Once these relationships are established, ensuring that these artifacts aren't assigned to the same people becomes very, very easy. As you'll see in our demonstration, we are able to run reports on the assignment of requirements and test cases to different users, and to make sure that one person is not verifying the same requirement he helped create or implement. Actually enforcing and documenting the process. Again, having a documented process is great and necessary, but it doesn't always ensure that that process is being followed. I was talking to a customer the other day who was saying that one of their biggest issues is that people tend to have conversations outside their planned meetings, their planned organizations. And while they might be very good ideas, those ideas still have to go through the process. And sometimes people go outside the boundaries to make something work that might be necessary, but sort of circumvents the established and documented process. With the tool such as Polarian, once you have the process configured in this tool, the process is not only self-documented, but it is self-enforcing. In order to make changes to a work item, for example, or to a requirement, you have to go through certain steps, either a reapproval of that requirement or having a certain rule in order to be able to change. Software development and verification plans can be created for each project, again, in a very self-documenting way, and provide sort of a centralized and organized repository for this information. Again, this information can be automatically included in the necessary deliverables, and these steps can be enforced and coverage and independence be automated, depending largely on the roles of the users. What I'll be showing you today is largely based on the Polarian's DO-178C template that is currently being developed. What this template will include is a large number of common documents, document templates, and helpful reports that might need to achieve compliance. In addition, there will be some scripts included to help with process enforcement and automation, some of the things including populating your deliverables and just enforcing the processes that you have in place. What you see today is, again, very much still in development. It will be able to be configured to fit your processes and workflow. We'll still be able to meet compliance. And again, at the end of this webinar, we'll open it for questions and answers. But I would also very much welcome you either at the end of this webinar or to email us things that we can put into this template that when we do finally release it will be very helpful to you in your processes. I'm going to go into our tool now. Let me just make sure that everyone is online. All right. I apologize quickly for anyone who might already be familiar with Polarian, but this is Polarian. It is a fully web-based system that is used for document management and application lifecycle management. And again, this template is based on the DO-178C process and strives to help you achieve all of the process goals and checklists that need to be done. Initially, let's go and look at some of the document templates that we have available within here. Polarian has a very unique system of being able to take individual sort of granular work items and have them exist within a document structure. This allows you to make changes to the system very much as if you're editing them in Microsoft Word while still having some of the granularity. On the left here, we can see a large number of the templates, document templates that we have available for the DO-170C template. On the right here, we have an example of that one. In this case, this is our software verification plan. And as we go down, again, very much looks like a Microsoft Word document. It can be edited exactly like a Microsoft Word document and can be saved. But it does provide a centralized location for collaboration where users can come in and edit this document from several different locations while still keeping everything organized and together. For this one, I'm going to open up our software verification cases and procedures. Just an example of how Polarian can help with actually taking your individual granular data and them into a document. As you can see as we go down, we have a few sections, one of them which is test cases. This would just be an example of where you would enter all the test cases that you're using for verification. But the big key here is that this test case, although it exists in this document, it can be exported with this document, doesn't exactly exist solely here. I can actually take this and open it up and see it elsewhere. And again, this allows my engineers to work on this separately than my document writers who will be finally taking these documents and submitting them. But again, it allows me to keep granular control of my information while still providing these necessary documents that are needed. Down below, we just have a quick example of a test coverage chart. Again, it's very bare at the moment. But again, another good example of being able to take information that exists in the system and automatically insert it into our documents. We have several customers who use these sorts of trace tables in their documents as well to easily create reports that can be exported and delivered to their customers or their regulatory agencies. One of the benefits, again, of using a tool such as Polarian is that once I have these documents in here and once I have them sort of filled out and managed, I can take this and not only export this document, but I can do what we call a word round trip. The big key with this is what makes it different than, say, exporting solely to a Microsoft Word document or a plain Microsoft Word document is that you have the ability to take this document, make any changes you want outside of Polarian, and then bring them back into Polarian as well. So I'm going to go ahead and export this in collaboration mode. Again, the biggest benefit here is that if you are working with an agency or you're working with a customer or working with someone who doesn't have access to your Polarian system, being able to get them involved in the process while still keeping sort of granular control of the information that they're passing back to you is very, very important. And as we'll see, this information not only will be brought back into Polarian, but will actually have the entire history of that document be saved as well. I can go ahead and let's provide a short description here, something simple. Go ahead and save this. And once we bring it back into Polarian, we can actually see any changes that can be made within the system. You can come in here, word round trip, and import changes, and we see any of the changes that we have made in here. Again, this provides a good way of bringing people who are not necessarily using the tool into the system, and also, just as importantly, being able to track all of the changes within this document. I can go in here and I can select my two documents and compare these two, where I can see any of the changes that I've actually made in the last revision. Again, provides a very easy way of managing the revisions of your document without having to manually go through and mark every change for every revision. Lastly, when it comes to creating multiple variants of a project, having a tool such as Polarian can become very much in handy. In this case, I'm going to open up our software requirements data. As you see, we just have a couple requirements within here that has just sample system requirement, sample high-level requirement. But if I wanted to take this same document and I wanted to create a variant of it, something that has mostly the same information, but a few things that are different, we have the ability to do what we call live branching. I'm going to go ahead and create a branch here. I'm going to call this branch software requirements data. Go ahead and hit OK. As you can see, we've created a brand new version of this document. However, it still references the same work items and the same requirements that I had in the last one. Again, this could be a list 1,000 requirements long within my document, and every single one will be the same. But when I do want to create my variant, I can come into the tool and simply hit overwrite. What this does, this creates a brand new requirement that I can now put my own life cycle to. I can change it if I want, and I can just make different from my main line of development. However, any of the work items that I have below that haven't been made new, sort of this new variant, still follow that main line of development. So there's no need to update two sets of documents at once for a single set of development. In addition, any of these documents can be reused either within the project or outside of the project. Again, if this template is not exactly what you need, but you do want to use some of the document templates here, it's very easy to take the information out here and reuse them outside into a separate project. So again, with documents, we have these large sort of structures with requirements and test cases with them. But how do you actually establish the traceability between these documents or between these requirements that I have within here? And again, one of the big benefits of this tool, Polarian over such as Microsoft Word, is the ability to take these individual artifacts and link them together. I'm going to go ahead and open up some of our test cases over on the right here. These are just some sample test cases that I've created previously. And what I can do is I can come in here, I can take any one of my test cases that I have. For example, I have a sample software test case, and I can go ahead and link to my sample system requirement here, just as an example. I can go ahead and click my link here. Once I save this, these two test work items now have this permanent bond, well, semi-permanent bond together. No matter where they go, whether they're moved from document to document or moved from project to project, this relationship will stay. So there's no need to set relative links between documents and risk having those broken if you do decide to move your document somewhere else. These two work items are connected no matter where you move them, again, ensuring strict requirement coverage. Again, the benefit of this is it allows the easy creation of traceability reports. So instead of having to go through by hand, creating an Excel file showing every requirement that you have within the system, as well as every test case you have and how they relate together, what has been passed and what hasn't failed. We can easily create a report within here that contains all of the data. For example, here we have a sample report of all of my information from system requirements on down to high-level requirements that refine those system requirements, and finally, the low-level and software architectures that refine those high-level requirements. Probably more importantly, we can also see sort of the requirements coverage. Here I can see that I have two requirements. One is sort of a software architecture design. The other one is a low-level requirement. And I can see that I have all of my test cases that are verifying those requirements. And on the far right here, we actually have the test results for these test cases. One of Polarian's features is the ability to manage both test cases and the actual test runs and results. So being able to record your results within the system and provide this traceability from result to test case and all the way back up to your requirements is very, very beneficial. And as I'll talk about in a little bit, Polarian does have integrations with several very important testing tools that will allow you to automate a lot of this process as well. Lastly, I wanted to go into a little bit about how Polarian uses this linking ability to ensure independence. What I have here is an independence report that we've wrote for this template. And what it does, at this point, it's very simple and has no real enforcement behind it, but it does show you all of the work items, in this case requirements that have verifying test cases, in which those items are both assigned to the same user. For example, DO101 here and DO223 are both assigned to myself. And again, this does not ensure independence in any mean. And it does tell me that it is something to look out for and make sure that until this list is empty, I don't have full independence between my verifying actions and my actual requirements in my design. Of course, I can go ahead and then reassign this. Let's say Mark Test is now the new tester for this test case. If you go ahead and hit refresh, I can see that my work item has dropped off the list, or at least my assignee has dropped off the list. Again, a lot of this process can be automated as well, making sure that when you do assign an assignee to a work item that they're not also assigned to a work item that is a parent or a child of that work item, as well as automating the whole assignee process as well. Lastly, Polarion does have the ability to take work items, such as requirements, and link them down to individual pieces of code. So here we have what we call the links revisions. This will allow you to take code that has been checked into a Diversion or a Git repository and link a specific revision back to a requirement or back to a defect. Just to say that this specific revision or this piece of implemented code is what we did to implement this requirement or fix this defect. Again, these relationships that are created are no means limited to within a singular project. You have the ability to create relationships cross-project, allowing people who are working in different teams with different methodologies to sort of share information between each other. Going on with sort of workflow and traceability, Polarion has a full workflow engine set up behind it. We have statuses for each one of these requirements, and behind this is an engine that will allow you to set up automation. For example, the creation of a test case on the changing of a status of a requirement. And also conditions, making sure that before a requirement is approved, it has a verifying test case. That verification test case has passed. And for example, it is independent that those two work items have separate users. All of this is very easy to set up within Polarion and is very, very robust. We've been able to work with a wide range of different companies and different methodologies and very successfully implement their processes into Polarion. And again, just a point is that everything that you're seeing today is fully customizable, so it's very easy to fit it into whatever methodology you might have in your current process. I'm just checking for questions, and I don't see any questions coming in at the moment. Again, I'd like to welcome you to ask any questions that you might have. Again, we will have a Q&A session or some time Q&A session at the end, but I would like to take those as they come in. Going on, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the extensions that Polarion has available that might help you with your request for DO-178C compliance. We have many integrations available on our POP site. It can be found at www.extensions.com, .polarion.com. These include a wide variety of workflow scripts for process automation and process enforcement, reports such as the traceability tables and independence reports that I've shown you today, and other templates, things that might not be specifically geared towards the aviation industry, but might be very relevant to the methodology or the workflow that you are using. We do have integrations available for a wide number of tools, for example, MATLAB and VectorCAST for testing and simulations, HP Quality Center for test management, and Jira for defect tracking. A little bit about Polarion. We do provide a whole suite of requirements, QA, and ALM solutions, and we do have over 1 million users worldwide that are using our solution. We provide it for all products and services, and we specialize very much in high compliance industries such as aerospace. And just a brief overview of our architecture, we are a fully web-based system, and we are very, very flexible and very agile. Try to help people from around the world come together in sort of a collaborative environment. Again, just a few of the customers that we have. We are very, very highly driven by our customers, and we always strive to take in your feedback and your response into our development. Again, I would like to take this time to welcome you. If you have any questions, not only any questions, but any feedback on our template, please feel free for you to contact me after the webinar, and we can definitely talk about getting this template set up so that it fits more of your needs. Again, I would welcome you to ask any questions. I will stay on the line as long as I need to answer any of your stuff, any of your questions. But if you don't have anything, please visit our website at www.polarion.com. We do have a downloadable 30-day free trial and a test drive available online. One of the questions that came in is, can you insert or remove heading levels when exported to Microsoft Word? If so, what happens to the links to other documents? You can definitely change the heading levels when you do have it round-trip to Microsoft Word. This should have no effect to any of the links you have to other documents. If these are hyperlinks, the hyperlinks will be maintained if they're contained within the heading. And if they're linked within Polarion, say from one Polarion document to another, those links as well will be maintained. So one question that's come in is, I've never used a template different from the default. How would I add one of yours to our system? That's a great question. Let me go into Polarion here. When you do download a template from our POP site, or when you do get one from one of our engineers, it's very simple to add that within your system. If you go up here to the gear icon, you can pull open the administration, go to global administration and project templates. This is where you can manage any of the project templates you have, or upload a template that you have downloaded. Once it's Once it's uploaded here, you can use it very much the same way that you use any of the pre-existing templates. One of the questions that came in is, how can you check the back trace from test case to requirement? Polarian graphically shows both parent-to-child relationships, but also child-to-parent relationships. If we go and open up one of our work items, this is a perfect example. We have a test case here that has a parent. In this case, it's a software architecture design. If you see here over on the top, we actually have a graphical representation of our hierarchy. I can see that my DO23 test case has a parent DO101, and I can actually go ahead and click on here and directly go back up to the next one. In addition, we have several other views that can be used to view traceability and hierarchy. If I go ahead and open up our work items view, we can go ahead and open up our tree view and see all of our work items. Let's go ahead and say I want to see none of my headings, for example. I can see all of my requirements and the traceability as well. Again, this can be shown both sort of down the tree from a parent to child, or in the other direction, or up the tree from my test cases, from my defects to my test cases to my requirements. So it's definitely possible to see that view going in both directions. Another great question. If you have a change request that requests changing of a requirement, and that change request is assigned to a specific user, how do you make sure that only this user may change only this specific requirement? Within Polarian, we do have user and role-based permissions. And as part of the workflow, if I go ahead and look at our workflow editor, let's go ahead and look at change request, which is a good one. And we go down to our actions. The actions here allow us to edit the roles and the fields that are required to make certain changes. For example, once this change request gets to the approved state, we can make a change that, and just say that only the assignee is able to make any changes to this work item. And again, this can be based on status, it can be based on the work item type, or it can be based on an individual work item. So our question is, if a requirement has more than one test, how can you check if the requirement is fulfilled? Again, I might ask for a little bit more clarification on this, but Polarian has the ability to do many-to-many linking. And when it comes to traceability tables, we can still see that many-to-many relationship. If I go ahead and open up one of my results data, as we can see here, DO104, for example, has 2 test cases that are assigned to it. But in this case, one has failed, and one doesn't have a test record yet. It hasn't been executed. Again, one of the things with the test case and the results is that the test case will stay the same no matter where you use them or how many times you run the results. So the results will continuously update based on what the most recent result was. In this case, it would be very easy to just come in here and see that both these test cases have passed and this requirement has been verified, or maybe one has passed and one has failed, and you might be able to narrow down exactly what part of the requirement is fulfilled and what part of it isn't. One of the questions is, how do you establish trace links between a source code file and a low-level requirement? And there's a few ways to do this. The first way is if you want to create the relationship between low-level requirement and, say, a specific revision of a source file. We can go into our low-level requirements and attach a specific revision to that system. But in addition, what we've created in this template is an actual code work item. If I open my work items here, go to code. What we have it envisioned as a place that you would actually take your source code and link to this one of these work items, whether it is as an actual file that you would update regularly in Polarian, or as a hyperlink to a location on a system where that source code is found. And if we go down below, we can see we do have the ability to add both hyperlinks and attachments. Both of these are fully historied and fully versioned, just as any other property within a work item would be. And again, it can be reported on so you can see that traceability from your requirements all the way down to your individual source files. I'm going to stay on the line for a few more minutes to make sure that there's no other questions coming in. But again, please feel free to contact me if you do have any questions following this webinar. My contact information is on the screen right now. And again, please reach out to me if you would like to provide any input into this template or get a copy of this template to evaluate on your own. Again, thank you very much for joining us today. It was my pleasure to have you on this webinar. One more question that's come in is, within a milestone, a requirement might be changed by more than a single user. How can this information be stored in Polarian? There's a few ways to do this. The simplest way is the fact that Polarian can assign multiple assignees to a single work item. Again, these can have the same rights where only this list of assignees can change the work item. But in addition, With Polarian's history functionality, the Polarian History Act will actually show every single change that has been made to a requirement throughout its entire life cycle, including who made that change and when they made that change. So within a milestone, even if several users who are not necessarily the assignee of that work item are changing the work item, all that information is still stored and can be seen. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'll be shutting down this webinar shortly. Again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out and contact us. And yes, all of the webinars, this one included, are recorded and will be available for download on our website. Thank you very much. Have a good day.